Hey, welcome back everyone. It is now December 27th of 2021, and ever since the very end of The Mandalorian Season 2 and The Bad Batch, a lot of Star Wars fans have really been looking forward to what Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau, George Lucas, and others have in store for TV shows like Mando Season 3, The Book of Boba Fett as well, as let's not forget about the Ahsoka Tano series that's really going to reshape the Star Wars brand at its core. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way, guys, I am on Twitter at Mike01 if you guys want to go ahead and give me a follow on there. I do post a couple of entertaining things from time to time and really make sure to interact with you guys further. So here we are, it is the end of December before we head into the new year. 2022 is looking bright, it's looking very optimistic, it's looking amazing with all the new Star Wars TV shows, the new Star Wars lore, such as the books, the novels, the comics, and video games coming out in the future as well. We have a lot going for Star Wars, and Disney is really trying to do everything that they can to really steer things in the right direction. Now, given that we do have Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni really working together as a team with George by their side, to incorporating Star Wars Legends into the mix, we already know that the Book of Boba Fett is doing just that. In fact, we are going to be getting a lot of Legends material in the Book of Boba Fett once it drops on December 29th and runs through early February. So, on top of all of this, what's even all the more exciting has everything to do with actor Adam Driver. Now, we already know that actress Daisy Ridley and other people out there, like Gina Carano, have been a little bit more talkative about their experiences with Star Wars, be it the sequels or The Mandalorian, whatever have you, or their overall and general view of how Lucasfilm operates as a company. Now, when it all dwindles down to Adam Driver, this is one actor that seems to have been very reserved for the past couple of months or so. However, with both Disney and Lucasfilm now getting ready to announce new Star Wars TV shows and films at Celebration of 22, both Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are also getting ready to begin filming the Ahsoka Tano series by this spring in order to get things rolling. However, Lucasfilm is said to have big plans for many characters in the Star Wars universe. Recently, however, it's described that actor Adam Driver got involved in an interview where he was able to discuss more about his experience on the sets of the sequel trilogy movies, where he unveiled new revelations about Lucasfilm as a company and Kathleen Kennedy. Adam Driver, of course, went on to state and went on to actually unveil that, it was at times very tough as an experience for me to go through, and especially for The Rise of Skywalker at the time. There would be moments where I would pitch these wonderful ideas to Kathleen Kennedy about using Ben Solo more, as I always wanted to experiment being a hero in the Star Wars movies. I had all these great ideas that I discussed with J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio, and even they were on board with it all. But to my surprise, Kathleen Kennedy never liked the idea of me portraying Ben Solo in any more than what we had got in the final cut. In her belief, she wanted to use the less is more approach to Ben Solo by not giving me any lines of dialogue for the ending of the movie. I will never forget that J.J. Abrams disagreed with Kathleen Kennedy's demands of making Ben Solo a quiet and reserved character, where the audience has to rely on body language. We had so many great scenes that were even partially filmed by J.J. Abrams, where Ben Solo shares some final words to Rey before he vanishes into mid-air. Now, let me just stop right here for a second. Now, we already know that Adam Driver, he's somebody that really wanted to experiment, like he said, with Ben Solo. He's expressed this many times, that he was always upset of how he never really got any lines of dialogue for the character in the final cut of the movie other than ow. So that was his only piece of dialogue, was ow, when he crashed on the chain, heading down toward Exegol. And I think that what we needed at the very least, at the very minimum, was some kind of exchange between Ben Solo and Rey upon his death. At the time, which was considered his death, they've left it very ambiguous, and now Jon Favreau is reworking all of that to make it that Ben Solo never really died, and how they're going to be utilizing him in a very exciting way to be alive and well in the future installments, which we'll be getting into that a little bit later. We've discussed that very minor. But one thing about Ben Solo as a character is that there is so much material to draw from. I mean, we have a lot of comics from the Knights, the rise of Kylo Ren that goes over the Knights of Ren and his path to becoming pretty much the man who he is in the sequel trilogy movies, right? So, with that being said, moving past all of this, alright, he goes on to say, I will never forget that J.J. Abrams disagreed with Kathleen Kennedy's demands of making Ben Solo, like he said, very quiet. We had so many great scenes that were partially filmed where Kennedy didn't even like that either, which always confused me as an actor and as somebody who was supposed to be the character where one's damnation becomes their salvation in a sense when I am thrown into the pit of exegol. Adam Driver also went on to reveal that there were many sequences that myself, JJ, and others had discussed, and Abrams really wanted me to live at the very end of episode 9. In fact, he was almost begging Kathy to keep me alive so I could make it to Tatooine and share that beautiful moment with Rey that you see at the end of the movie, which I thought was magnificent. We even experimented this by partially shooting that scene as well, which was mostly digital with minimal practical effects. Again, I mean, when we even look at the fact of how Lucasfilm seems to have treated Episode 9 in a very messy way, you can see how they left Ben Solo's death very ambiguous, or his fate, I should say, very ambiguous at the end of the film, given that he was not a Force ghost next to Luke and Leia like he should have been, given that you don't hear him as a Force ghost voice at the minimum talking to Rey, like how they kind of did in a minor way in the novelization. I'm sure that you guys have read about that a little bit here and there, but the thing about Ben Solo is that there's so much more to this character that could have been, and Kathleen Kennedy kept on refusing to do anything that JJ, Terrio, and even Driver wanted to do with the character. And I think that this just goes to show us that Kathleen Kennedy's ego is too big to be broken, and she creates this big barrier around herself, and if any portion of that barrier gets broken, where some form of, ideas roll in or concepts roll in, she seems like as if she gets offended by that. That's how it comes off as. Other than that, I think that Adam Driver knows what he's talking about, even though, he hasn't, really been in tons of Star Wars movies prior to the sequels. He knows what Star Wars is at its minimum. He knows exactly what it is. The philosophy of Star Wars and everything. He talked about this, by the way, that he really does respect George Lucas, and he feels that George Lucas should have been more involved with Episode 9. And obviously, I think that's why some fans have a lot of issues with some of the character development techniques, with Rey, for a great example, in the sequels. So he goes on to state that Kennedy would always tell me that Ben Solo needs to be a character that is quiet with no dialogue. And to be honest, it was always tougher for me to act that way. I felt like a mime at times because I felt like I just needed to say something to Daisy during our shoot during the final days of shooting. So I think that Adam Driver has a perfect point here. I mean, he does. I mean, he makes it clear that he wanted to experiment more with Ben Solo. And by the way, Ben Solo's a great character. We saw the acting just pour through Adam Driver when he opened up to Han Solo in that scene on Kef Bir. I mean, they did an amazing job there. Great acting, at least. It has its moments in Episode 9. As flawed as it is, it has its moments where acting shines through to the fans. And I remember in the theater when Adam Driver gave that performance as Kylo Ren, breaking through, and Ben Solo breaking through, I should say, that eggshell, and that shell of Kylo Ren just crumbling. You could just see it, and it was very well performed. So, overall, guys, I would love to see what you guys have to say about Adam Driver, talking more about that. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.